And good morning and welcome to another stream this morning. Um, there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. Is um, grants that are given out by the NDIS, which isn't what means it's not tens of millions, it's actually hundreds of millions of dollars of grants that are given out annually. Some of them, it's just, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's just some of these grants are at least unethical um, and unfair when you think about the reforms. Also, I want to talk about Pauline Hanson. She has a thing on YouTube which I've subscribed to. And one of her YouTube releases the other day was talking about her response to the reforms. Now, whether you like Pauline Hanson or not, I actually do like Pauline Hanson. I don't agree with everything she says, but at least she's upfront and honest, and you know where she stands on each item or each issue. And there's only been one other politician in the past that has been very similar, which was John Howard. I personally didn't like him as a person, but one thing I did like about him is you knew where he stood on each issue, because he was upfront and honest, and if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. Now, I don't know about anyone else out there, but I really like people like this. You might not like what they think or believe, but at least you know where they stand. Now, Pauline Hanson's speech to Parliament about the reforms that that One Nation's going to support them. There was very little in that speech that I didn't disagree with, as far as people getting funding. When I first got on the NDIS, it wasn't easy to get things that you needed, but they were achievable. And that seems to have exploded to where people are getting free holidays and free concert tickets and free accommodation and all that sort of thing. I personally know people who have done it. I do not agree with it. That's not what the NDIS is for or designed to provide. It's not there to provide people to go away for a weekend, to get free travel, free accommodation, free meal allowance, free concert tickets, and free support. That's not what it was designed to do. It was designed, if you want to go to a concert, and I've asked this question repeatedly from the NDIS, and if I want to go to a concert and it's a couple of hours away in Sydney or Brisbane, then I have to pay to travel to and from those destinations out of my own pocket. I also had to pay for the accommodation out of my own pocket. I had to pay for the tickets out of my own pocket. If I needed a support worker, I would have to pay at least one meal out of my own pocket, as well pay for their accommodation. But somehow people have worked out how to get all this for nothing. I know someone who's support worker went from X amount of hours per week to 24/7 care, 7 days. The support worker bought a brand new 4-wheel drive, and the next minute they're all off having a great holiday going to Central Australia and Northern Territory. And it was paid for by the NDIS. Now, if you go onto different social platforms, you'll find that there still are thousands and thousands of people screaming out for basic services. Absolute basic services. So why are these people screaming for basic services when people are getting free holidays? Support workers are able to buy brand new 4-wheel drives. How can you go from X amount of hours to go into 24/7 care and still go on holiday? I can't work that one out. And also know there's a support worker who provides 12-hour shifts, one-to-one care for 3 people. I don't know about you, but there's only 24 hours in the day, and she's providing one-on-one support for 3 individuals, 12-hour shifts. Doesn't work out. So these reforms were inevitable because people rotting the system. And let's not forget businesses, not all businesses, some businesses rotting the system as well, jacking the prices up because they know it's coming from the NDIS, double and triple a price that the average person would pay for. I know someone who got home modifications done because they can't walk anymore. They can barely stand. So they got their bathroom renovated. The person who did the work got paid 100% of the job up front before they started the job. And it took that person months to get that person back to finish off all the little mistakes. If it was privatised, like if that was a private person, they'd say, we'll give you 50% up front, and when the job's completed and done to our satisfaction, we'll pay you the other 50%. That's how it's normally done. Let's not forget the NDIA who rented out 4 floors in a building in Melbourne, but decided to build their own building, their own headquarters, instead of renting 4 floors out of this huge building in Melbourne at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, this new building. Why? Why did they need a brand new building when the place they were renting was absolutely suitable? So if you want to look, I encourage everyone to go onto YouTube and subscribe to Pauline Hanson's Please Explain. Sometimes it's her speaking in Parliament, sometimes it's cartoons taking the mickey out of politicians. It's hilarious and accurate. It's really good. I strongly urge people to go and subscribe to Pauline Hanson's Please Explain on YouTube. How much money is the NDIS wasting on grants? Well, not wasting on grants, but grants being possibly misused. So I decided to have a look into it with the help of a support worker. And we've come across a grant that was given, 2 grants given to one organisation, totaling just under $240,000. I can't. We've got a slide coming up. I can't talk our way through it, so I'll get my support worker here, Chris, to help do the slide and talk our way through it, so everybody can understand what's going on, especially people who are blind or vision impaired and can't see the screen. Yep. Yep, and before we do the slide, there's someone backstage, Wendy. Would like to bring Wendy up. Yep. You there, Wendy? Hello? Wendy, you there? Don't know what's going on. Okay. All right, so Chris is going to bring those slides up, and we'll talk our way through it. Well, I'll get Chris to talk our way through it, explain what's going on. So, okay, Chris, thank you.
Okay. So, let's bring up the slides. The first slide that we have here is from the NDIS website. It's on the grants pages, which is funded projects, and this is the Disabled Peoples and Families Organisation. And we have a document here, which is the 2018. So it's a 2018-2019 financial year, and it's a document that has the grant round recipients. And it's got some, it says these are organisations that meet the following criteria, actively demonstrate their commitment to social model of disabilities, which seeks to remove barriers from people with disabilities and access mainstream services and live an ordinary life. Run by and for the people with disabilities and or their families, and are led and controlled by people with disabilities and or their families, with a minimum membership of 50% people with disabilities, and their families make up the organisation's board, staff and volunteers. The next slide is actually from the document itself, and this is just one of the excerpts from it. The first column has got the organisation which won the grant, and it's the Growing Space Limited. It's in South Australia. There's the final column, there are some descriptions of what the grant money was for. So between the first grant was to do training and research for people with disabilities, and the second column was to provide it says individual capacity building, lead a consortium of registered support coordinating businesses to develop a clearinghouse of a diverse range of resources designed for and by self-managers, including training material, videos drawn from a human library of self-managers from diverse community checklists and action plan templates that will be freely available through the Hub website. we go on to the next page. Now, this is the growing space, which was the winner of that grant. And this is Sam Payor, Paior, founded and directs the growing space. And that's her biography there. That's got a lot more information about her that's available on her website. The following page is Sam Payor's profile page from the Self Managers Hub. So she's obviously, well, it seems that the grant money has been used to create the Self Managers Hub to provide this information, and she's part of that group. We have further down in the profiles, we also have George Talaporos, and he's listed as the secretary on the Self Managers Hub. And then the last slide has on the NDIS website, has Sam and George with their profile pages on the IAC website. I'll leave that to you, Jim.
Okay, all right, thanks, Chris. Now, the grant that was given to growing spaces was to provide free information. Now, to people in the Self Managers Hub. Now, when you go to the Self Managers Hub website, there's a subscription fee of $98 a year for individuals and $198 a year for corporate. And it also tells you that you can get this reimbursed with your core funding. So it's not free. You've got to pay for it. Also in the Self Managers Hub, they have a little blurb in there talking about how they can teach you to be creative and innovative using your funding, which to me sounds a bit like, we'll show you how to get more out of your funding by fudging the lines. Now, that's my opinion. But the grant said that for them to get that $240,000 in grants for the self-managers they're supposed to provide information for free. Some of it is, but the subscription, which comes out, you can get reimbursed for out of your core funding, makes it not free. It also says that the subscription helps the ongoing costs of updating information, which I think they would just copy and paste from the NDIS website. Now, I've been part of different committees over the years, and 2 times we've had to create policies and procedures for organisations, and what we did was go to other organisations, go through their policies and procedures manual and cannibalise it, meaning that we just took bits and pieces from other organisations to create our own policies and procedures. Now, it's not illegal to do that. It's quick and easy to do it that way rather than someone to sit there and type it all out. But I don't know. Why is these IAC members able to collect $240,000 in grant funding? Now, there's also, we come across a university who got a grant of $375,000 for some sort of research. And when you looked into it, once again, there's an IAC member, a part of that as well. What the hell's going on? Is it a boys' club with the IAC and the board and Bill Shorten and the NDIS? We found these things fairly quickly. Now, they mightn't be illegal, but they're certainly unethical, in my opinion, for IAC members or board members to have so many fingers and so many different pies, and all these organisations get grants. It's unethical. It should just not happen. It should not happen. If you're going to be a member of the IAC or the NDIA board, then you need to recuse yourself or step down away from these organisations applying for grants. I know in a lot of cases all you have to do is acknowledge that you're on the IAC, but every committee I've been a member of, and I've tried to get minutes and the agenda from the IAC for 12 months in an accessible format. I've written to the Secretariat, to the IAC, and they just said, go to the website, and they provided the link. Now, I use a screen reader because I'm blind, and I can't open PDF files, and my computer's not compatible with Adobe. "12 months I've been after minutes in the agenda from the IAC for the last 5 years in an accessible format. The IAC wouldn't even talk to me. Not one member from the IAC would talk to me. And the chair of the IAC, Leah Van Poppel, wouldn't talk to me. So last week I rang up the NDIS and I told them I wanted a copy, or I asked them for a copy of the minutes and the agenda for the IAC for the last 5 years. And they said, "Oh, can't you go to the website?" And I said, "No, I'm blind, it's not accessible, and it's really hard to find anything the way it's laid out." So she tried to find somebody to talk to so I could get the minutes and the agendas in accessible format. And she couldn't find a contact person. All she could find was an email address to the IAC Secretariat. And she's asked on my behalf for this information. Now, it's only been a week and I've still heard nothing. And you can also remember I lodged a complaint with Bill Shorten about George Teleporis and that cartoon he put up. And we referred to support workers as bum wipers, and all they're there to do is wipe bums and cut up carrots. What did Bill Shorten do? Referred it off to the NDIS. What the hell's going on? You know, everybody's ripping into the NDIS participants, but what about the IAC and the NDIA board, the NDIA senior management, and Bill Shorten? What the hell's going on? Now, I previously mentioned about the AICD, which is the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Now, I mentioned that just under half of the IAC and the NDIS board were members or graduates of the AICD, and now all that information's been removed from those websites. So they are listening, but not answering. So to Leah Van Poppel, who's chair of the IAC, who I know has a copy of that letter I sent to Bill Shorten. I know you have a copy, and you've had a copy for a few weeks. And she's also a board member of the NDIA. Now, I was told, I've done some research and investigations, and I spoke to previous senior admin people of the NDIA, and apparently they're all on gag orders from Bill Shorten. That's what I've been told. That's what I believe. That Bill Shorten has a gag order that nobody can talk to anybody about there, only he can. Now, Bill, isn't the Independent Advisory Council there to represent people with disabilities? Now, our representatives? Why have an IAC if we can't access those members of the IAC? And I've emailed more than half of them individually over the last 12 months, but no response. How can they represent us if they can't talk to us, or if they refuse to talk to us? To have a truly independent advisory council, then Bill Shorten, you should not be putting them into those positions. They should be elected by participants of the NDIS. Now, Bill Shorten, he appoints all the members to the NDIS board and to the IAC. So they're all handpicked. Now, I know I interviewed someone late last year who's got on the NDIS, under the IAC. So she's only new. But I think she would be and is an asset to the IAC. The rest should go. The rest should go. We should be electing them. If they're our representatives, then we should be electing them, not handpicked from a boys' club, from the parts of the AICD, or because they're part of the Labor Party or have affiliations somewhere along the line. Be open and transparent. You might make all these reforms for the NDIS participants, which I do agree with. It needs to be reformed. The money's just being wasted. It's being rotted. Not just by participants, by businesses and organised crime. Now, according to Pauline Hans's thing on YouTube the other day, that the current head of the Quality and Safeguards Commission, before he got that position, I think it was the AFP he worked for, or something, Australian Federal Police, he said estimated 20% of the money that's being spent on the NDIS is for organised crime. Now he's part of the Quality and Safeguards Commission. He thinks it could be doubled. So 40% of the NDIS have been rotted by organised crime. Yep.
advised Abe is on the chat. He's just saying hi and how are you?
Oh, hi Abe, how you going? Abe has his own YouTube channel. Really nice bloke. He's one of the true gentlemen on YouTube. Welcome, Abe. Haven't seen you for a while, but I haven't met on YouTube through the day all that much. So anyway, thanks, Abe. But like I was saying, $45 billion a year, and by 2030, it's expected up to 90 billion if these reforms don't come in. Now, I remember what it was like prior to the NDIS. All I did was get on the computer, did work on that for an hour or two, got up, went to the TV, watched an hour of that, got up, went back to the computer, because that's all I could afford to do. I don't get a full disability pension. I only get half a disability pension because my wife works. And I think that's fair enough. I think it should be means tested. The disability support pension. I don't have a problem with that. That's fair enough. Paula Hanson also said that she's going to introduce something to Parliament in the next week or so, this couple of weeks, to have the NDIS means tested. In her words, why are multi-millionaires getting free services? I think if people can afford to do things for themselves, they should. And I've said so many times in the past, one of the biggest mistakes the government did when they were bringing out the NDIS was that the trial period was nowhere near long enough or wide enough, because they severely underestimated how much it costs the families and friends of people with disabilities to help support them. And if they couldn't afford it, they just went without, which is what I did for decades before I got into the NDIS. Never went out. I still don't go out. My wife and I we've been on one holiday since 2012. And that was for a week. Because we just can't afford it. Just like everyone else in the country. But these grants, like I said, they're totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. And how do we know if they're being used properly? It's so hard to find the information. You go into one link, then you go into another link, and you go into another link, then you go back to the previous link, then you go to another link, then you go back to the previous link. And you have so many pages open, it's so hard to keep track of. But Paul Hanson is right. The rorting's got to stop. And some of these fundings, like these growing spaces, $240,000. And part of that grant was that it has to be free. The information has to be free. But to be a member of the Self-Managers Hub, you have to pay $100 a year. But you can claim that out of your core support funding from the NDIS. So it's not free. is not free. So, like I always say, don't take my word for it. Look into it for yourself. Make your own informed decision. It truly is amazing that these IAC members have so many fingers in so many different pies, director of this and board member of that, and getting grants for this and helping others get funding that they're part of the research of, and it's ridiculous. If you're on the IAC, then you should recuse yourself from being a board member or director of a company that's getting funding, grant funds from the NDIS. It's a conflict of interest. Like I said, every time I've been a member of so many committees over the years, and on the agenda is always conflicts of interest. You have to notify the committee you're on if there's a conflict of interest. And these grant applications are a conflict of interest because you know what the hell's going on. I know one IAC member on LinkedIn gave a heads up to a job that hadn't even been advertised yet to another person on LinkedIn. So what do we do? Who do we go to stop this from happening? We can't go to the IAC because they don't respond. You go to Bill Short and he just fobs off to the NDIS. You can't go to the NDIA board members because they don't respond either. So where do we go to? Who do we turn to? The Quality and Safeguards Commission is so overwhelmed. With investigations into breaches of the NDIS. Like there's tens of thousands of complaints a year. So who do we turn to? Who's our representatives? How do we get to talk to them? How do we get help? Now, on LinkedIn the other day, I read that a NDIS participant with a disability decided to go to self-manage, and she accidentally did some things that she shouldn't have done, and she had to pay back, $27,000, which she couldn't do. So I can't say the word, so I have to say she unalived herself. Now, why isn't the self-managers hub saying to self-manage you need to have qualifications or experience in bookkeeping or accounting? And also, what happened to the NDIS? Why wasn't it picked up when she hit $5,000? But they waited until she reached $27,000, couldn't pay it back, got overwhelmed, and she unalived herself. I don't know this person, this young woman. She's in her late 20s. I don't know her. I don't know if she had the ability to self-manage. I was given the option to self-manage because my wife's a bookkeeper. And she's done bookkeeping and accounting, she does BASs. She's done it since she was 15. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I don't want the responsibility. So every time I apply for something, I always go through my support coordinator. I get approval first, then go get the item. Because I don't want the responsibility of making a mistake and have to pay it back. Now we all remember the robo debt through Centrelink, and there was quite like over a dozen people unalive themselves because robo debt made a mistake. Are we going to go down that track now with the NDIS? Is the IAC going to make recommendations about people not having the qualifications or experience being able to self-manage? You can't ask them that question because they won't respond. Hypocrites. Let's keep the IAC, but let's have those positions elected. So the average person can reach out to members of the IAC for assistance or guidance. Now, we all know there's been multiple deaths by bad service providers over the last 12 months. And now people are becoming self-managers who don't have the qualifications or experience and acquiring debts that they can't pay back. So the only option they have to themselves is to unalive themselves. It's not right. Not right. Shame on the IAC. Shame on the NDIA board. Shame on Bill Shorten for fobbing everything off. Like I said, I've spoken to people who worked up in senior management of the NDIA. They left in disgust at the way it was run. One woman who left her position as a senior manager in the senior management part of the NDIA left because she wasn't happy that the way things were being run. And lo and behold, she's now a board member of the NDIA. And that's a fact. I know it's a fact. I've got the proof. I've been sent information by an ex-employee of the senior management of the NDIA. So do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Make your own informed decision and let me know. Go to my YouTube. My email address is blindadvocate007@gmail.com. Shoot me an email or you can contact me on LinkedIn, through Facebook, Instagram, all through them. I don't know. There's no comments or anything? Okay. Well, we might end it there. These grants are a joke. They really are. people on the IAC getting all these grants, and they have so many fingers and so. Just go and check it out for yourself. Find out the IAC members' names and do a search on them. You'll be surprised. We'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us today. Just one other thing before I go. As you know, my last stream we talked about the accessibility to the New South Wales train stations, and the letter I received after I recommended the ModTAS system that's been trialled in Melbourne. I wrote another letter back. It was quite a stern letter. I've got a copy of that, and I'll probably do that in the next stream. Hopefully I'll get another response from the Minister of Transport in New South Wales. And I'll talk about that on the next live stream if there's a response. All right, Chris might end it there. Thanks everyone for listening.